Welcome to the Mill. I am so excited to have one of my sweetest friends join us today, Dawn Casale. She is the owner of One Girl Cookies. Dawn's pronouns are she, her, hers, and she started One Girl Cookies out of her West Village, New York apartment in 2000. Her fond memories of elaborative, festive Christmas cookie platters baked by her mom led her to make tiny cookies that were as beautiful as they were delicious. If you've never had her lemon bar, by the way, don't, because then you're taking them from me. Thanks so much. These cookies remain a focus of the business that now has 3 Brooklyn retail locations, an offering that extends well beyond cookies and many more than One Girl. Dawn has led her business in a way that allows her to positively impact the lives of her customers and employees. It is important to her that One Girl Cookies spreads joy both within its walls and beyond. She lives in Brooklyn with her husband, who is also her business partner, their 2 kids, and their dog. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, same here, Rachel. Always nice to chat with you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to start with some personal questions, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to talk about your background
hmm
in retail. How do you feel that that has then now benefited you in those really early years of starting out in 2000? Talk me through your mindset day one of like, let's do this thing.
Yeah. 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 My background in terms of my professional background in retail, I worked at Neiman Marcus first for a couple of years out of college, and then right after that, Barney's New York, RIP. I can't even stress enough how that background and the experience there informs how I started my business, and the decisions that I made early on. But also, still, 23 years later, I still feel like I'm drawing back on that experience and applying so much of what I learned there. And when I say that, I mean it's everything from the aesthetic, right? I really learned how presentation was so important, how to make the recipient of a gift feel really special, how to give great customer service. And so, all of the things about that customer experience and making things really beautiful, and not always precious, but still beautiful and special. But additionally, I would say that I really also learned a lot. I was a manager there, and so I learned so much about how to manage team.
Mm.
And I think the ability to be able to do that in a business that wasn't mine and having a lot of mentors there and people who had much more experience in that world was so helpful for me. And then taking that experience and applying it to ways that worked for my business and the culture of my business
Mm.
was so great. I'm so thankful for that experience. And I still think back on so many of the things. And even, so many of my original customers, my first customers, were people that came from that life. People that I had developed relationships with, and so yeah. It really laid the groundwork for what I ended up building.
Yeah, I remember a conversation you and I had during COVID and how challenging that was for you and your staff. And I remember so vividly how much empathy and care and sadness you felt for your team and the lengths that you were going through to make sure that everyone had a job and felt supported. And I mean, I don't know if that comes from your experience in retail or you just being a lovely human being, but that is something that even when you walk into a One Girl Cookies, the service that I experienced buying 45 lemon bars for myself was outstanding. And I really feel that when you have good leaders at the top, it 100% trickles down into the people that are helping to support the day-to-day of your business.
hmm So true. Anytime I go to a store now, when I have a great experience, the first thing that comes to my mind is that these are happy people and they have a leader, a good leader, and so there is a direct correlation to how people lead, with the service that their employees are providing, without a doubt. Yeah, I think what I've learned in my lots of years in retail and management and owning my own business is, I'm nothing without my team. And
Mm.
so I deeply appreciate them and what they bring each day. And even though there are plenty of challenges, there's always a group for every bad seed, and I've got them too, just like any other business owner. But there is someone there who has my back and who is there and supporting my business and has its best interest at heart. And so I don't take that for granted ever. And so when something is happening personally, for any of them, yes, it's it's impactful for me too. I feel it for them, and also I think as a leader, and I don't think that I am unique in this way. I think leaders do feel a sense of responsibility to their employees, right? Like we've made a choice in our lives to become a leader, and that's not just what it is at face value, right? It goes
Right.
so much deeper than that, and I take it seriously. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of running a tight ship,
Mm.
starting a business, having 3 locations, working with your husband, and having 2 kids. Talk to me about motherhood and how that's maybe impacted the way you operate your business, or if the business has impacted the way that you mother your kids.
Both. Every day. I mean, you can ask my husband how many times I say to him, like, I just said the same exact thing to Nate that I just said to my employee, to employee X. Um, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think about it a lot, right? Like, I do sort of like ponder these things and these relationships and sort of the relationship between parenting and leading. And I mean, really what it boils down to is yes, my children are younger than my employees, but not by that much. And I think I'm leading a house, I'm leading a business. It doesn't really the lines there are pretty blurred, and there's so much overlap. And so I do
Mhm.
find myself applying approaches to communication, to to even like the way I organize the house and like our family, to the way I organize my business. But really, like I would say, more than anything, it's most apparent in the interpersonal like relationships. And yeah, I mean, I marvel almost sometimes at how parenting and managing are so similar and related.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Patience,
lots of it.
empathy,
Lots of
hiding
it.
in a room that it is locked.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming from
And
someone who has no children but 3 dogs, I
yeah,
just like,
similar.
it's close enough. Can't lock
Similar,
your kids
yeah,
in a
for
crate.
sure.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that, and I think the common denominator with Dawn is you. Your process is what then impacts your business, your family, your household, yourself. That's you are at the crux of all of those things. And I want to shift gears quickly. You have incredible products that are not only creative but also delicious. I think we've all had that experience where we're like, "Ooh, truffle dipped banana peanut butter chicken," and you're like, "I gotta try it."
I hope
And
not.
it's not good, right? But for you, you have some staples for sure, and you definitely have some things that you've experimented with. But I'd love to know what your creative process is, and where and if you find inspiration for some of your products and goodies.
Yeah. I mean, I just love food. I mean, I know it sounds like such a cliche, and lots of people say that, and but like I really do. And I mean, I've been like reading Bon Appetit magazine since I was like 12, and
Yeah.
so I think that's actually still places like I was a total nerd, but I think it's still places like that, like reading magazines, and obviously now Instagram has made the world a much smaller place. And so it's really amazing to be able to get inspiration from other bakers. And I think that's probably where I find most of my inspiration is from my peers.
Mm.
Um, and so that's like just seeing what a local bakery in Mystic, Connecticut is doing, or in Seattle, or whatever it might be. Um, and, maybe it's not necessarily copying that exact same thing, but it's just planting some seed and thinking, oh, wow, that's interesting. How can I one girl cookie eyes that idea or that concept or that item? Um,
Yeah.
and so for sure, I think it's that. And I think that just food in and of itself is, provides its own like inspiration and creative juices, like you go to the farm market and you see rhubarb and automatically start thinking, okay, what can I do? And sure, you can make a strawberry rhubarb fill in the blank, or you could do something a little bit different with it. And so I think that a lot of inspiration just comes from Mother Nature and the bounty of the earth itself.
Yeah.
And travel, I mean, I think there's not many people that wouldn't say travel provides so much inspiration. Um, and of course, anywhere we go, the first thing we do is, we don't care about the museums. I
Yeah.
mean, churches, that's nice, but we
Yeah.
really just want to know where the bakeries are
Yeah.
and the coffee shops. And so we're making sure that we're visiting those and taking inspiration too, not just for our menu, but also design and how are things laid out and how do they manage their service and how do they, make sure that the customer experience is of a certain caliber. And yeah, I mean, and I live in a place where Brooklyn, there's lots going on. So there's also inspiration here, and it's very multicultural, and so that's also, I think, a real benefit. So yeah, all of it.
So what would you do with rhubarb?
I actually think that rhubarb is a lot more versatile than people say. First of all, everyone pairs it with strawberries, which is, of course, very delicious. And so
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. And I can also understand not wanting to mess with perfection, which is pretty close. Um, but, there's like, I made just a rhubarb tart
Mm.
not that long ago. Yeah, and it was delicious. And we didn't need the strawberry. I mean, it had a very different flavor profile, right? Without the strawberries there, which kind of take over the rhubarb when you make something
Mhm.
with strawberries and rhubarb. So I kind of appreciated that it was just allowing the rhubarb to shine on its own.
Wow.
So that was the first time I had done that. The next time I do it, I think I'm going to add some sort of herb, like maybe thyme or something.
Oh, I was just
Because,
thinking that like a rosemary might be like
or,
too much, but like yeah, rhubarb and
yes,
thyme, like a little buttery, flaky little
yes,
tart crust.
exactly. You know
I'm
exactly what
hungry
you're
if you
saying.
can't tell. It is
Yeah.
lunchtime for all of our viewers when I haven't eaten my lunch yet. Good time to talk cookies with Dawn. Yeah,
Exactly. Perfect
that's so
timing.
awesome, Dawn. I love that, you're just a creative person who loves to eat,
Hmm.
and it shows in your products.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I want to talk about you have this first location. There's so much
Hmm.
anyone that has started a business or started any sort of initiative knows what it goes into doing the first one. You got the first one. Now you set your sights on the second location. Talk me through some of the challenges that you experienced, and now looking back, maybe some advice that you would give someone who might be going through a similar experience expanding their business.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, we had the first location actually for a while before we opened the second one, and I think that is one thing I would say. I really do think slow growth is the best way to go, and I know that as a culture we are always about growing, growing, bigger, better, and I don't think it's always the best way to go. I think there's so much to learn, and even when you think you kind of have it all down, you don't. And so figuring out the systems and all of the things that are required to make a business really run efficiently and effectively, it takes time, right? Because a lot of those things you don't even know. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know it until you're in a situation, and then you have to develop a system for it. You have to develop a process or a procedure or a way of doing it.
Mm.
And so anyway, we opened our first business, the first location in 2005, and then the second one 7 years later. So it was quite a while. And what I learned through it, though, was that we still hadn't had it all figured out. And it's mainly because it was not even something that we could figure out.
Mm.
Um, I think just like kids, you have one kid and you kind of, oh, okay, I get the parenting thing, I can do this. But then you have the second kid and you have to completely rewrite the playbook. And
Yeah.
so a business is no different, right? We thought, oh, well, we have this business and it's going well. We've kind of been doing this for 7 years.
Yeah.
Let's try something new. And when we opened our second location, what we realized it was actually very different than running the first one. I mean, some of the things were the same, sure. The customer was very, very different. The
Mhm.
location, just the physical structure, very, very different. And all of those things really do impact everything else. Meaning, if you have a different customer, then maybe some of your products are going to be different. Or
Mm.
maybe the way people buy them, or the way they use them, or the way they interact with them is going to be different. And then also because it's a very different environment, the employees are different, right? It's a different type of person that is attracted to working at our Dumbo location than is attracted to working at our Dean Street location. And
Mm.
so there was still quite a lot of figuring out to do when we opened that second location. And I don't regret it at all. Actually, it was great, but it was something I guess I wish I knew rather than going into it in a very valiant way of like, oh, sure, we got this. We've been doing
Yeah.
it for 7 years, no problem. It wasn't quite like that. There was still quite a lot to learn and figure out. And even still, the way we manage them both is really quite different. It's quite different. They have each have their own unique set of challenges and pros and cons.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's great about that, Dawn, is, we work with a lot of clients who have different lines of products or services. And in a way, they need to be kind of marketed differently. They still have to
Mhm.
live under the umbrella of the company, which in your case is, of course, One Girl Cookies. But you've got different locations that might serve a different audience or have a different feel to them while they are still very much a part of the same beautiful family. And so, what you've done is you pivoted by very quickly recognizing what's different and why, and then how do we adjust to make sure that this is successful as the previous location, but maybe for different reasons, because you're
Yep.
leaning into the things that we know about this. So
Yep.
I think that's a huge win that you all did, was immediately recognizing what's different and why, and then how do we pivot to make sure that we're leaning into that point of differentiation.
Yeah, I mean, it's crucial. I mean, I think if you're not able to be malleable in that way and to bend and figure out like what direction you need to go in and what your customer is going to respond to,
Hmm.
um, I think it's going to be hard to succeed,
Yeah.
or to really or to have a successful business that has like the staying power, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think that we actually, because of that, right? What we saw was that our Dumbo customer was really wanting a heartier, savory menu, and because of that, we ended up rebranding it, remodeling and rebranding last year, and now it's an all-day cafe concept. It's a completely different concept with a different name, and customers have responded very well to it. So I think there was really an appetite for that at
Hmm.
that location. So sometimes
Hmm.
figuring that out could be as drastic as that.
Yep. We say it to clients all the time. What does your customer want?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all know what we want. We know what our brand means to us, right?
Right.
But we're not the one paying our own salaries,
Yes,
you know? So what does the
exactly.
consumer want? It's step one. And then how do we adjust to make sure that their needs are met, which
Yep.
will thus lead to the success and profitability of our business.
Yep. While still keeping the integrity of your brand and doing things that you're passionate about too, and striking that balance. It's
Hmm.
not always easy, right? I
No.
always said we will never do a chocolate chip cookie. Why? Because there's a million. They're like, why do we have to reinvent the wheel? There are tons of
Yeah.
great chocolate chip cookies out there, but the second we opened that Dean Street location filled with families, little kids, guess what we started making?
Rhubarb
And it's
pie?
a best-selling cookie.
Yeah, yeah. I totally get that, and that's okay. I think that for
Yeah,
business
I'm
owners,
okay with it.
for me, I started Mill and Co 5 years ago, and I was like, we're going to be everything to everyone all the time, and we still are industry agnostic, but we have significantly narrowed down the services that we offer. Why? Because we noticed that some of them weren't
Yep.
really being asked for. Some of them were kind of going out of style, like traditional PR. It's something that, especially for the clients that we work with, it's not really something that they need. They're better served with organic and paid social or paid, Google ads. So here I was, 5+ years ago in New York City, like, this is what we are. And we're different now. But we
Yep.
still ultimately stay true to that brand essence that we have always been and we will always
That's
be.
right.
We will never sell chocolate chip cookies, however.
No, probably not. Don't. I don't
I
advise
will
it.
happily take some though, Donald. I'm going to send you my
Okay.
address after this. So you've got these locations now and you've got different people, you've got different audiences, and you're a brick and mortar. And then we had a global pandemic. Talk me through some marketing strategies that you used that seemed to work really well for your business, maybe compared to other food, bev, in-person companies.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound old-fashioned, but I will. Honestly, word of mouth is really still, I feel like, just irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And it's word of mouth from people that you know and trust. And sometimes that is an influencer, sometimes that does come through Instagram, but I think we can't always just rely on that. And the proof is in the pudding, right? So people really do need to be able to taste your product. I mean, I think for me, our best advertisement is a cake. It's something that somebody actually pays us for, right? Somebody orders a cake, they bring it to a birthday party, and hopefully we have 10 new customers, right?
Mhm.
And if you have a wedding, well, that's really great because then, you have 120 people or whatever it is that have just
Mhm.
tasted your cake
Yeah.
and or had a box with little favors with our cookies in them. And so I think what I would say is as much as, of course, we are in the social media game and all of that because that's required and also serves a very important specific purpose. But really, it's that kind of stuff. And so within our communities, we're often donating to, and for a lot of reasons we do this, we donate to the local school auction and all of that stuff. And we do that, of course, because we want to support the communities that support us. And there are lots of
Mhm.
reasons for that. But
Yeah.
also, it is for marketing. I mean, it's, again, not to sound cliche, but, the more people we can get our product in front of, the better. And I think there's validity there because if you go to a Whole Foods, there is always tasting why it works, right? So even a company like
Yeah.
Whole Foods has figured out that that people tasting your food is really, you know, irreplaceable.
Yeah. It's so interesting tracking all of the things happening on social media
Hmm.
that there's this very fun swing happening where there was like overconsumption during the pandemic because we had nothing to do but watch Tiger King and go deep on TikTok, right? And some of us are still there. And then there was kind of this like digital revolt where people were like, just got to get off my screen. I need to do something. I need to get outside. And we see a huge uptick in on Airbnbs and Verbo, right? Because people are now traveling. They're like, well, if I can just go get a house, right? It's safe, it's clean, and my bubble, I got my circle, right? And now they're doing more things. And so there's just been this constant wave on social. So what's great about One Girl Cookies is you have a very high quality product that speaks for itself in a way that is your marketing is how good your products are. And anyone that tries it is like, A, I'm going to go back, and then B, oh, I've got that holiday party coming up. I'm going to talk to my HR director and see if they can get these for our party, whatever. And so you've got that going for you. Um, and you're also in an area of Brooklyn where you've got a lot of like community and people that want to support local, and you've kind of got all those good things going for you. And you've been around a long time. I
Hmm.
remember very vividly a conversation you and I had where you were like, we lived through 9/11, the recession, and now a global pandemic.
Hmm.
And I
Yep.
remember asking you why, and you said the same thing. We've got a lot of really loyal customers that have been with us
Hmm.
a long time, that believe in us, that want to support us, that really enjoy our product. And then you're just naturally meeting new people by expanding to new locations and trickling down through generations.
Yep. So true. I think during the pandemic, we knew and we know and we feel very loved. We know that our customers love us. We know they're there for us. But I think, most business owners will tell you, and I certainly know my peers that own, especially food businesses, felt very supported. I mean, the communities didn't want to see us close, and they knew we had people ordering cookies every week. I'm pretty sure they did
Or
not need cookies every week, right?
never know.
Um, well, yeah, I mean, most people should need cookies every week.
Yeah.
Probably didn't want to have cookies every week.
Yeah.
And I think that loyalty is really important.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think you just develop a resilience. I mean, after 9/11, I said it, and then after the recession, I said it, and all the things in between, the blackout and the transit strike during Christmas, and all the
Mhm.
things, Hurricane Sandy. You just feel like, okay, well, we made it through one more thing, and the pandemic truly was like, wow. I mean, if we can make it through that, um, we're good.
Yeah. You've
you know,
got
kind
your
of feel
very sturdy
invincible.
oak tree in the middle
Yes,
of
exactly.
Brooklyn. And is
With the
oak the strongest
rings.
tree?
It's
Someone comment below and let me know what the strongest tree is, because I don't actually know if it's oak. I could be totally wrong. Who knows? The redwoods, I don't know. I gotta do some Googling after this podcast, Dawn, but it is a testament for sure to the service and quality that you deliver. I mean, I really think it is that simple. I was thinking about it before we hopped on. I'm like, God, they will never go away. And you grew slowly, but at the right time, you did all the right things. And so I hope for anyone watching to take a look at your own business plan or the company that you work for and really truly assess, have they thought this through? If we're trying to make drastic change or growth, which is exciting, right? And it's a good
Yeah.
thing to do, but have we truly thought this through? Have we talked to our people about it? Have we talked to our customers and clients about it? What's their appetite like? How is this going to impact our employees and their morale? How are they going to feel about this growth? Is it a good thing? Is it scary? Are they going to think we're going to outgrow our britches and then need to make cuts? So, I think taking lessons from One Girl Cookies is truly a masterclass in how to grow effectively, efficiently, and sustainably over time.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. So
Yeah.
with that, what's the next big thing? What's coming? Anything?
Well, actually, funny that you say that because after you said all of that, but we're actually downsizing. And so we've recently
Oh, okay.
closed.
This is a
Yeah.
masterclass in downsizing.
Yeah. So the next big thing is
Yeah.
actually it really, I think contrary to what people think, but the next big thing is going to be some big growth thing or a new location or something like that. And it's actually not. It's actually um, downsizing and streamlining in a way that will allow Dave, my husband, and I, on a personal level, to really tap into the things that we love doing. And so I think one of the prices we all pay for growth is that you become more and more removed from doing the things that you love and instead turn to doing the things that you have to do. And it's
Mhm.
a natural, I think it's a natural part of growth. And there's really no way around it, right? Like I think some people are a little bit better at managing it than others. They can sort of still, um, sink their fingers into doing that thing that they love and do it some of the time, but there's still a whole lot of doing things that are required. And I think what we started to realize is, well, we're doing that way more than we're doing the things that we love. And you start to question, especially as we get older and our children are getting older. And the demands of the business are just really huge. And it was just the sacrifices were just becoming too much. We have a son who's getting ready to go to high school. And of course, we looked at each other like, how is he 14? Like, how did that even happen?
Yeah.
And like, also, the days are numbered that he's going to be living under this roof. And so we've said, you know what? If we're not really doing the things that we love on a regular basis and we are sacrificing so much on a personal level, what exactly is it that we're doing here? And so we closed one of our locations, which was where our commissary was. We moved it back to where our original kitchen was, which is in our first location. And there was a retail location attached to that commissary. So we've closed one retail location and the commissary. And of course, there are many emotions that come with that. And of course, it's super bittersweet. But in the end, I think we both really felt like this is really the right choice at this point in our lives. I think that for the point in our lives that we were at when we built that kitchen and opened it, and we were hustling and figuring out how to make it work during a pandemic and during the ups and downs of wholesale business and all of it, that was the right decision for that time. But our lives have changed now, and I think what we want has changed. And
Mhm.
so the next big thing is just honestly, for me, it's a more personal journey of like really being able to be more creative and tapping into that and digging deeper into doing the things that I have wanted to do, these ideas that are in my head that there's just never time to like act on them and to implement these ideas. And so I'm so excited about that. And so what's next? Things on a smaller scale. But things like maybe like an Italian dinner once a month at one of our locations, which like, yes, you're going to come down for it. You will, you must.
Please.
And like, my mom is Sicilian and we grew up eating very Sicilian style food and it's comfort food and very nostalgic. And I want to share that with our customers. And so I think a way to do that would be to have a dinner like that. And it's been in my mind. I mean, I have notebooks full of notes on what we would do and how we would serve it. And so that's, I think, what's next, which I feel very excited about.
I I couldn't love that more. And I also think, Dawn, if you've proven anything, it's that there isn't much change that can happen to One Girl Cookies that you're not going to survive and thrive through. So
Right?
by making a very personal choice is really a masterclass in setting boundaries,
Yeah.
because I say this to my employees. We are blessed that we're not heart surgeons. There's no beating organ on ice in a cooler. Like we don't have to act right
Yeah.
the F now, like we have time,
Yeah.
and we should be really intentional and purposeful with our lives. And especially as business owners, I will make a huge sale and I will look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, great. All right, well, I sold that in. Like, now what's next? How am I going to upsell? How do I drive this? How do I leverage this into more? How do I kill this and do a really, really good job? And I never truly take a moment to be like, wow, that was great. That
Yeah.
was huge. And it does
Celebrate
take
it.
a toll after time.
Yep.
And you've put your time in. You're very young, by the way, but you've put your time in because you worked a ton through a lot, and you deserve that. You deserve a trip to Italy, to
Right.
Sicily, and go get a cannoli in Taormina.
Yes.
And, you've done these things. And I also feel that your team respects that decision, because you're saying, this is what's best for me as this business owner. This is what's best for us as a company. This will allow me to be the best version of myself
That's right.
to my team. I think that's one thing that a lot of leaders forget, is we're so focused on our team growth that sometimes we forget what we, as the leader of that team, need to be a better
Yeah.
leader.
You have to put your mask on first, right?
That's so true. There's a reason. I knew there was a reason that was happening on airplanes. It's for business owners. Thank you,
That's
Dawn, for
right.
making that.
It's
I
a
knew it.
motivational speech, actually. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with safety.
Thank you, Southwest. I knew it. Oh, I knew it. Yeah. Well, Dawn, it has been so lovely, lovely to see you and to chat with you. I
Same.
I love
Always.
everything that you've done, and my goodness, please email me first before you even announce a date for an Italian dinner, because
Okay.
I'm there. I'm a quick train ride from Boston. If anyone is anywhere remotely close to New York, or traveling to New York, or wants something from Dawn, please reach out. Please go to One Girl Cookies. They are absolutely incredible. You will not regret your
Wow.
experience. And
Thank
to learn
you.
more about Mill & Co., as always, you can go to our website. You'll find all of our podcast episodes right there for you. We'll also be sharing this on LinkedIn and tagging Dawn and One Girl Cookies so you can check them out.